There's a company doing business. It's got their eye on alternatives. They've been making waves. But is there more to the story than what's in freight waves?
From the trenches of trucking experience and a passionate heavyweight in the Truth and Broadcasting Network, welcome to Truckin City News FrontLines PodCast, hosted by the most opinionated broadcaster on YouTube, Boss Man.
And as always, we have technical difficulties. This day has been fraught with them. But we are still here. We are still alive. We are still kicking. Heidi ho to the trucking family. Welcome to Truckin City News new show called FrontLines PodCast. Once a week, we come up here and talk about the issues that relate to trucking. We make it make sense for you. We are the truth in broadcasting. So, guys, grab your coffee if you haven't already. Lord knows I've had a couple myself. And set on in for an hour-long show talking about news you can use. Here, the news matters. And you make the difference. This is the only call-in show currently in existence that I know of where you can call in and actually sound off and get a person like me at this show to give you the voice to be heard on issues the media will never get right. Hell, the media might not even advertise some of this stuff or talk about any of the issues, as it were, because they're so busy taking handouts from people like Uncle Sam and Big Truckin. So we have decided to be that voice for you here at Frontline Trucking. This is Truckin City Media. We are serious. We give you the story. We give you a couple of scenarios, a couple of things to debate about. We'll have fun debating the issues here. At the very end of the show, I need more coffee. At the very end of the show, I will sit back and give you my take while giving you the voice to be heard. At the end of it all, we arrive at the truth. That's what it's all about. At the end of it all, that's what we want. If this kind of show appeals to you, go down below, hit the like button, become a subscriber, because here at Truckin City News, the news matters, but you make the difference. Today we're talking about the CEO of Cummins Engines Manufacturers, Jennifer Rumsey. She's all about making it known that she's basically all that. For the last 21 plus months, she's been riding high on that CEO ownership tag, running Cummins engines. They're the big shots in engines, of course. They're one of the big three. But they just got hit with a jaw-dropping $1.675 billion fine from Uncle Sam and settled on a separate case of over $175 million. And you may remember that Cummins was big in the news over the exhaust issues from the EPA with the Dodge Ram pickup trucks. Turns out about 1 million or so engines, they cooked the software on it, and they tried getting by, passing a lot of these engines through, and didn't quite do it right. And EPA caught on to that. So they're now having to deal with all that backlash. Now, this, of course, rides right in the face of all the latest hubbub over emissions, California CARB, all this stuff. Now they're trying to excise all the diesel engines out of the country and out of life in general, and they're trying to electrify the trucking industry. Well, what greater time than now to come up with a new strategy? Well, part of today's discussion and part of today's show is what's really behind that strategy? Did they see this stuff coming? No pun intended. But I mean, they've got this new thing called Helms now they're pushing. Helms basically stands for high efficiency, low emissions, multi-fuel. So what they're trying to do now is they're trying to design their engines to be run on alternative fuels. Now they saw this coming, no doubt. They're deep in, I mean, money's all over the place trying to develop new technologies like hydrogen fuels and other things. So it's all about being fuel agnostic, which basically means, hey, look, we have to build engines for today. We have to make things that work not just with diesel, but with other fuels as well. If you guys want to know about the story I'm talking about, check it out in Freight Waves. It's right here. We've got all the information you need to know about Jennifer and all the information really that, is there. I recommend Freight Waves because it seems like they are true to form when it comes to talking about stories and the issues. So, that's where I get a lot of my information from. Um, but they got a good write up about the whole issue right there. Um, First up though with the Helms thing is, natural gas. They're talking about putting engines now on natural gas. Well, we've been down that road before, and we see how many of those CNG things are out there dormant, and they're used more for parking lots than they are for refuel sections. So Biden wants all the diesel engines off the road by 2040, I think it is. They're going to slowly stage engines to be, less a part of the trucking nomenclature a little bit at a time from 2032 all the way up to 2040. So, it won't be long. And next thing you know, bye bye diesel, hello electric semi, or as my thumbnail says, hello Tesla semi. Um, I'm really not looking forward to that. I don't think we're going to have what we need to totally electrify the trucking industry all that fast. So, I don't know. Today's show, we're going to talk about what you think. What is on your mind about this whole electrification and what is going on with the CEO of Cummins? We've got two possibilities here. Now you've heard the story. Now I'm going to put out two different positions. I'm going to be neutral here because I'm a broadcaster. I have to be. So what I want to do is put out two positions, and I want you to debate on the merits of that position. First question, and put it in the comments if you will. What do you think of the entire electrification argument in its entirety? Do you think it makes sense to try to electrify an industry that can't not handle it? Then we've got position one and position two. These are interesting positions. So here you have all this stuff being thrown at the industry, and everybody wants it done tomorrow. I say give technology a chance to catch up. I think 2040 is way too soon. So if you really think about it, government, listen close. If you really think about it, technology's good, but it ain't all that. We're not there yet. That's position one. Position two is on the left, and it's, well, a lot more heard of these days. Position two is let's dive headlong into all these alternatives. Let's give trucking a chance to flourish and get it done without diesel and without killing the nation. That's position two. Put down in the comments what your thoughts are on exactly how you think the trucking future should be. And as you're putting down the comments, I'm going to bring on some guests that I'm sure probably have their own opinions. You know him and love him. He's on Facebook, he's on YouTube, and he's the world's best funny man. Driving with John. How you doing, John?
I'm the world's best funny man. I don't know.
Hey,
I don't know
uh,
about all that. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day and another day God gave me to live on this great earth.
God bless it. Yes, indeed. Yep. So, real quick, before I bring in the other guests, what's your thought on electrification and my positions on this whole thing?
Well, this
Well,
show's
not my
only an hour.
positions, everything.
This sh-
This is,
this
yeah,
show's
this is an every. Go
yeah,
ahead.
this show's only an hour long, so I can't really give you all my opinions, but I'll try to keep it short. Um, when you're trying to change an industry with a technology that doesn't exist, the change is going to be very slow and painful because we're not there yet. They have yet
Dangerous.
to come up with a electric vehicle that can drive a long haul load. They can do local, 100 miles, 200 miles tops. That's about it. And there's
Yeah.
not an infrastructure to charge them anyway. So, um, I do want to touch on the natural gas thing that you said. A buddy of mine works for UPS, and UPS actually uses Cummins motors
Mm-hmm.
as their natural gas motors, and they install them into Mac frames, which is kind of crazy, but they do,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what they use. So
Mm-hmm. Good to know. Good to know. Another fellow we have that frequents our show, I like to say, is the grumpiest old codger in existence. Welcome to Frank. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing just great. Everybody
Hey,
love the weather. It's
yeah,
beautiful
right.
today.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what are your thoughts on emissions and all this garbage about electrification? You a position one guy or are you position two guy?
I'd have to say basically probably let's see what was position one for it.
Position one was let's hold on, let's let technology give it a chance to catch up to the industry, and let's do it sensibly. Position two is hell, full ahead. Let's damn their consequences and just put all the alternative fuels to play.
I'm going with one because I'm with Wade John said, and you also. We just don't have the infrastructure to support the system right now. Not to
Mm-hmm.
mention, long haul with them. They've already finding out that small Tesla cars and battery operated cars are basically not working whenever we drop in climate change with real cold weather. So, what's going to
Yeah,
happen whenever we're in a powered electric powered truck and we get up in these cold places and we're sitting overnight on our 10-hour break and we get up
yeah,
to try to go anywhere and it's dead. There's nothing we can do and there's nowhere to charge it.
no, and that happens more than people want to admit. In fact, there was a story recently I remember hearing about where there was somewhere up north of as many as 100 cars that were frozen solid, could not even be recharged because
Mm,
the charging ports were frozen over, and because of the cold, were damaged. And Tesla
mhm.
has yet to respond to press inquiries about that. So
Yep, I
yeah,
remember seeing that same story.
I mean, so it's interesting when you talk about how good electric is for the environment, but what people aren't talking about is, what happens to the extreme circumstances when you're dealing with extreme cold temperatures, or even on the other side of that argument, extreme heat. So,
Hmm.
talking about a hot topic, we have another hot mess in the house. We have another fella joining us from the depths of Arkansas himself. Somebody I've recently labeled the semi-serious trucker. Say hello to Gilligan. How you doing there, Gilligan?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Enjoying the weather
What are your
today.
thoughts on? Yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts on electrification and both the positions we've taken on this entire argument? So, are you position one guy or a position two guy?
I'm definitely going to go with one due to the fact we've seen on I have seen on YouTube, I've seen on Facebook, especially with these long hauls, you consistently see them sitting on the side of the roads and having to be towed out of the way. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just can't make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they can't. And I mean, they really need time to perfect the technology. They need time to perfect not only the technology for the electrification of trucks, the grid itself, and all of the safety measures that are adaptable and integrated with all that. I mean, hell, they've got issues with automatic braking systems locking up randomly. You know, the lane departures, um, causing semis to go into Jersey walls. All of these questions and question marks when it comes to technology. And the Biden administration wants to go headlong into let's get everybody on board, put in these trucks, automation everything, electrification everything. Oh, and if it don't work, oh well, we'll just deal with the consequences. Quite honestly, I think that's a half-assed way of doing it, and I don't I don't agree with that approach. So let me say hello to a couple of people that are joining us with the comments. Um, we have Man Boss. I don't know who that is. Man Boss. Hello, everyone. Welcome to you. That's the first I've seen that name. And yes, the good fella in the north, we hear you, we see you. Your stuff is coming through loud and clear. Poet's been trying to join us on the internet, but he's having internet issues. So let's check out this comment here. Speaking of technology, now I don't know about a semi, but with gasoline engines, why don't we use some of the suppressed or oppressed technology? Um, Thinking that's part of what the Helms program is talking about. I couldn't find too many
Hmm.
details other than basics in this one Freightline article and really didn't have a whole lot of time to research. But frankly, where your position's concerned, Larry, I agree. They do need to utilize other forms than just electric. I mean, because so far, most of the big three, when it comes to Detroit, Cummins, and Caterpillar, they're all talking about electrification and making a slow, gradual turn. So far, Cummins is the only one that's actually that I know of making public the idea of exploring alternative fuels, i.e., hydrogen, natural gas, and I think there's another one in there. I remember reading an article. I just don't want to flip off this screen. If anybody knows, drop it in the comments. Um, you know, let me see. Here's another one we haven't seen. WC Invader. Tesla Semi is a sham. They struggle to have the distance claimed under a full load. Never mind cold weather. Yes. There's been conflicting reports that I've heard. Some say that the Tesla semis can consistently get 500 miles out of a full charge. That's a false report. What I've heard is that they can consistently do 250, and then you need to start charging them. Now, that's only 4 hours, really, when you think about it, and that's not a lot of time. And the charge time does not make it cohesive for anything other than local deliveries. They're using them all over the Northeast, I think, with local deliveries, and in certain other smaller cities outside the Northeast, they're piloting electric semis for the local runs, and they're driven. They're not automated, but they're driven and they're used. But there again, you've only got just so much range. You can't really get anything significant, and God forbid you put anything heavy in those things, and they deplete real quick. That's been the feedback I've heard so far. I just don't think we're ready. So, you can't even order a Tesla semi anymore. That says everything. Yeah, well, it's just because of what I'm saying. They don't have the technology ready and they don't have it perfected yet. So it's really difficult to try to market or mass produce, much less a product that you don't have any idea what it's going to do. Because not only do you have that, but you've got the warranties and the BS when it comes to repairs. You know, they probably have no idea what they're going to do with that too. A carburetor that makes 100 mpg, I'd like to see if that wouldn't reduce emissions. Well, I like your thinking, Larry. I like your thinking. You know, and I mean, stop the press just a second. When is somebody actually gonna wake up and slap old Pete Buttigieg in the head and say, "Look, dude, we have gone immense amounts of distances with emissions in this country." You know, it wasn't maybe 10 years ago. The average MPG for a semi was less than 5 miles a gallon. Nowadays, you've got trucks brand new, like the one I'm driving, almost 10 miles to the gallon. You know, it's crazy. And here we're talking about getting off of diesel. Why? We're doing so good with the technology. Why stop there? If we are just in 10 years gone from 5 miles average to 10 miles average, what stops us in the next 5 to going almost higher than that, almost doubling it? I think we can double the mileage on a diesel engine if we put the technology in the right spot. What do you think, Frank?
Well, I believe that's right. I mean, and as far as that 100 miles per gallon type thing, there are vehicles that were processed and made that basically run off of water, hydrogen power, and they can get that easily.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it seems to disappear and phase out, and nobody talks about it. Nobody wants anything to do with it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a crazy deal. I mean, honestly, that would be wonderful if they would start doing that, because I mean, hydrogen's clean. Why not
Mhm.
use it? But our problem there, it leans back to the factor of basically, you might say, big oil.
Well, and then too, the byproduct of hydrogen at the end of it all is, the end of it all, you get water out of it. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what winds up being the byproduct. So you're not
Yep.
hurting the environment. If anything, you're helping the environment.
Yep.
We're going to open the phone lines. If you have an opinion, a position, or something to add to the comments today, by all means, add to it. Let us know your thoughts. Sound off. Before you call in, turn down your player because the background noise will kill you. 860-785-3547. 860-785-3547. Let us know what your thoughts are on the electrification and alternatives in trucking. We are talking about the diesel standard. Leave it or stick with it. Today, with Truckin City News Frontline PodCast. Take a moment, if you will, go down below, hit the like button, become a subscriber. You never know what's going to be on this show. We're talking today with our guests and those in the chats about leaving the diesel standard, making the decision to cut the cord, as it were, or plug it in. However, let us know your thoughts. A vapor, this is coming from Larry Schmidt, a vapor intake system that makes close to 100 miles per gallon of gasoline. They're back to my other argument. Again, I think we need to focus more on the current setup. I mean, currently we have trucks like the one I'm driving right now. You know, I mean, slap empty. I can get an average 9 miles to the gallon with this thing. I got nothing in the box, sailboat fuel and all. I mean, John, truck you're driving, I mean, maybe it's the greatest, maybe it's the oldest. I don't know. You tell me. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you think we can double the current mileage rate, or do you think we still have some work out of us?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. Okay, I recently rented a car. The car got 41 miles to the gallon. It wasn't a hybrid. It wasn't an electric. It was full gasoline. Now, 10 years ago, you were lucky to get 20. If they can do that with a car, and think about it, in that same time, we went from what 5-6 miles to the gallon to 8 or 9. They can definitely, if they put more behind it, if they can do what they're doing to cars, they can do it to trucks too. That's why what he's saying, I don't think is 100% correct, 100% incorrect. I mean,
We don't
whatever
need fuel injection. Computers, smog pumps, all that, everything that, Larry's saying is, I mean, dead on true. I mean, I like the way the man thinks, and it's, I mean, honestly, I think the direction we need to go in. We don't need fuel injection. We don't need crazy stuff. All we need to do is focus headlong on the technology that's available. We have made in 10 years an almost 50%, if not nearly 100% jump in the current mileage standards in trucking in trucks today.
Yeah, but
and now for whatever random reason they want to cut that. But
I'm not saying I disagree with you, but like I said, if they can jump a car fuel economy 20 to 25 miles per gallon in 10 years, a semi they've only brought up 3 to 4, maybe 5 gallons in 10 years. I think there's just not enough focus on it, even though we probably consume, a lot. We consume a lot of fuel. I just don't understand why they don't focus on it. Now with Cummins, they actually do. They actually have focused on other alternatives, like you were saying earlier. UPS uses a natural gas truck exclusively. Now it's all local, granted.
All right.
But
yeah, just like I was saying earlier.
Right. But the thing is I mean, I have a buddy that works out of that location, and I'll tell you what, he doesn't mind it at all. It works well. It lasts for a very long time. But the only problem is the only place you can get fuel is at his yard. There's not a lot in that area that offer them, and when there are, usually people are parked there, like you said.
Yeah. WCF Invader. I think we just made friends. Honestly, we just hooked two people up in YouTube chat because WCF Invader really likes the direction Larry's going. So you two hook up and talk about it. Let me know when you come up with a solution.
Well, I'll tell you, WCF Invader, he actually watches a lot of my lives. He's an extremely intelligent, informed guy. So whatever he's saying,
tell. I mean,
I'm probably going to agree with him.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm kind of diving out of the premise of my show because I said at the start of the show, I was going to try to remain neutral. But, darn it, when it comes down to stuff like this, I find it very difficult myself to remain neutral. I mean, I'd like to be, but if you can't tell what side of the argument, position 1 or 2 I'm on already, I mean, you're not watching the right show. I mean, I honestly don't think we're ready. I honestly don't think we have enough technology to make any of this work. And I certainly, forgetting everything else, don't think we have the available resources to facilitate everything necessary to electrify trucking. I don't know. What do you think, Gilligan? What do you think about that one, Gilligan? Do you think we're ready for that kind of thing?
Well, definitely not. We are not ready for it. I mean, I'm going to go back to, we're always going to need some type of fuel to burn.
Right.
That's what helps makes our trees grow. That's what makes our plants grow.
Right.
I mean, we're always going to need it.
Mm-hmm. Always indeed.
So if you get rid of it all, then what are we going to do to breathe?
Right. Yeah, but that's where the left's argument really makes the day, and that's where it makes the most sense because that's where they're marketing this whole thing on the weakness of, well, if we don't get it done today, our kids are gonna be sick. Our our whatever they call them, they're gonna be two left arms and three. Oh God, please give me a break. How many shows I've had on That's Truckin' that I've put, shorts where people are just claiming this BS about, chronic pneumonia being caused by diesel emissions. No, I'm sorry.
No.
Chronic pneumonia is not caused by. It doesn't help it. Don't get me wrong. Hey, look, at the end of the day, I want clean air too. I'm not
Well,
saying anything bad about the people that are fighting this whole, um, you know, clean air thing. Don't get me wrong, but let's be sensible about it. What you got, Frank?
okay, this is just still kind of on the subject, but I want to bring this up. Down in Louisiana, there's a tiger truck stop. Okay, for years, this man had a real live tiger that lived there. And of course, the Humane Society kept saying, oh, all these trucks with their diesel engines is going to kill that poor tiger. Well, when he finally passed away, to make them happy, he went and had the what do they call that, where they dissect and check and everything, find out what they died from.
Mhm.
Anyhow, he had that
Autopsy.
done, and yeah, thank you. Anyhow, um, and they found out that he actually passed away from natural causes. Absolutely had nothing to do with trucks. Absolutely had nothing to do with the diesel fuel. Nothing. It was natural causes. So
Well, if it's
he
the
had to
place I
prove his
think you're
point.
talking about, that place got 9,050 million. I'm exaggerating, but they got negative press just because he was doing something no one else was doing anyway. They had so
Yep.
many haters on them just based on the marketing gimmick of the idea that he had a tiger down there. So let's not even go there. But the poor guy, I mean, he had the world against him from the get-go. So, I mean,
Yeah, but I'm
God
just
bless
proving
him
a
for
point.
doing
The
what he
factor
did.
of it is, it's not killing us. That's not what's
Yeah.
killing us.
Well, and
You
it's
know.
part and parcel to the way I started the whole discussion, and that's that everybody has their stake. Everybody has their position. 9 times out of 10, there's a lot of money tied up in that position. So when you're talking about throwing billions and billions of dollars, like, like the likes of Jennifer Rumsey, her company has a stake in the future of what happens to the industry. So I am damn sure that she's putting her shareholders, for lack of a better word, in the best position possible. She's seeing, well, it may go electric, it may go diesel, but it may go elsewhere. I better have my irons in the fire, or however she says it, whatever the case is. I mean, she is quoted as saying, I think I still have it up in this article. Um, if it'll show, give me a second. Add to stage, pause because I don't want to go in anywhere. Give me a second here. Um, I'm disappointed, frankly, at the number of and some of the tone given and how we try to work through this. But we're moving forward. We haven't slowed down in our strategy. I mean, that right there shows resolve, and she's determined that no matter what happens, her company will survive, which is good. I admire her for that. But it also shows that she's got calculations going on up there. She knows something we don't. She knows something's about to give. Now, whether that's, future politics or whether that's future administrations, I don't know. But I tend to stand on the position one side, and that's let's let technology catch up. Let's work out the kinks. In the meantime, let's stick with the diesel standard until such time as we can afford to move in those other directions. So, final thoughts there, Frank?
Am I still here? Because I think it froze.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
wait, all right,
froze,
all
but
right.
yep,
You're
All
here.
sure
right.
did.
Well, I'd agree with you on that. And this is just, it's got to do kind of with the subject we're on, but a little bit of a different topic. The factor of it is, like locomotives. Okay, they're powered by electricity. But the get the electricity, they run a big diesel engine to run a power plant. So, how are they going to fix that? Are they
Right.
going to run power lines all over the United States just for electric trains totally to where there has no
Well, here's
diesel
the thought.
engine?
Here's the thought. Right to your comment, there, Frank. WCF Invader has a good point right here. He says, build a semi very similar to train engines. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Does everybody, obviously, the merit of the guests currently that are typing comments, they are probably very well aware of this. Does everybody know how a train works? Does everybody get the basic concept of a train?
I'll be
Okay.
honest, I don't.
Train, okay. Here's a little bit of 101. The trains themselves aren't necessarily pushed like the standard engines in this truck. What happens with trains is there's a diesel engine. There's usually two of them, I think. I may be wrong. There may be one, but I think on most on most train engines, there's two engines. One runs a generator, and another runs an auxiliary. Although they may have that differently. Bottom line is those engines run generators. The generators power batteries. There's a big group of batteries in the front of the engine of that train. And the motors that turn the wheels, the drive wheels, are powered by electric. So the train engine, it may rev up, but that's just to put energy back into the system. It's not to propel or move. It's not moving the transmission. All it's doing is it's pumping more electric back into the generators. Trains themselves are propelled by electric motors. So I think personally, that is, and WCF Invader, I love the comment. I love the way you're thinking. It is a great way to segue the halfway point of our show. I think that's the way we need to go. Rather than I'd say cut the cord. It sounds shitty, but rather than cut the cord on the entire idea, let's stop diesel and start electric. I think that's the way to go. We need to actually make a gradual transition.
Like a
And if you
hybrid.
want to try it, put a diesel generator in a truck, see how it works. What's your thought, Frank?
Can you hear me? Because I froze again.
Yeah, you did. You
Hello.
did. I can see your hand in
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I froze. Well, anyhow, if you can hear me, basically, what looks like his concept and the way I was speaking is, and what you brought up also, is kind of basically similar to a hybrid car. They run both off of generated power, and they also run off of the gasoline engine. So whenever the gasoline engine is not necessary, it uses the electricity. Whenever the electricity gets low, the gasoline engine kicks back on to repower. So yeah, I'm for that. But there again, we have one particular state that has a big influence over our EPA, and that's one of the reasons why everything wants to go green. That's why we have the DEF system. That's why we have all this weird stuff on our trailers and all that. Is being influenced by the wrong people.
Yeah, and all the other stuff you're talking about, by the way, we've kind of mentioned in some of our previous lives. If you're feeling froggy, go back on some of my previous lives and look at some of the news articles we talked about. A number of states have joined in this California compliance mission, and I've actually, begun enacting laws of their own. Alternatively, though, a number of states have also joined the fight and actually launched a suit against the California Car Board of Directors or whatever, and they're actually suing them to put a stop to this because, like me, they think this is really too damn fast. We need to slow it down. We need to work it out and do what is needed to be done in terms of technology and do it right. I'm all for doing it right. What do you
I
think,
froze
John?
again, man. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. Sorry, guys. It's supposed to be 2 thumbs up, but it looks like I'm getting ready to box.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There you go. So, what do you think,
Thank
John?
you, John.
You think the whole idea of slowing down is the way to go, or what do you think?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, your name John. You know
Sorry.
John
I
Hill.
was actually just trying to comprehend what Frank was trying to do. So do I think? So repeat the question. I'm sorry.
Do you think we need to slow down and try to pay more attention to doing it right in terms of electrification, or maybe just
Um.
exploring standards, or
Well,
what do you
I
think?
think WCF Invader said it a couple minutes ago in the comment section, and I kind of agree with him. I think a hybrid would be the next step, not going directly to full electric. Um, I mean, you got cars out there that are getting like 60, 70 miles to the gallon running on a hybrid. If you can do that in a car, maybe you can get 30 in a truck. Guess what? You just tripled the highest we can get right now. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that would be the next logical step.
Yeah.
Personally, let me
Yeah.
add one more thing too. Earlier, you were
Sure.
talking about how they can only go 250 miles in electric. Well,
Mhm.
just for people that aren't into trucking, so you understand this, that means you can only go 100, a little over 100 miles out and a little over 100 miles back, because before that battery dies, you got to be back to where you can charge again. So
Yes.
that's why it can only be used for local. Like, I know
It.
250 miles sounds like a lot to a non-trucker, but it's really
Yeah.
not when you cut it in half,
Now,
especially.
when you pit that in comparison to today's fuel cells that are currently on these with diesel, when you fill up these diesel tanks, I can get almost 1,400 miles on these diesel tanks before I ever have to stop and refuel. 1,400 miles, because I can put 120 gallons in one tank and 120 gallons in another tank. Mind you, it's expensive, yes, but at the rate electric is going today, I perish the thought of what you could try putting in a battery to get an equal amount of distance. I mean, let's not even go there. That's just far beyond possible. But when you put down a charge on a battery of like a max range of 250 miles, right next to what the capabilities of this thing are currently, why even consider it? To me, it's the only thing you can do with it is local, you know, and that's kind of in part and parcel with what they call intrastate anyway. You know, you've got
Right.
interstate and you got intrastate. So you got two
Yep.
different types of commerce that you do. For those that don't know trucking, there's two different types of licenses you can purchase, and two different types of CDL driving. You got interstate, which is back and forth between states, like you pick up in New York and you drive to California. And then intrastate is just within that state or within that geographical area. So that's the difference. But the idea being is that's all you can do with a semi truck, that's powered by electric. You can't go, a Chicago to Philadelphia. You can't do the, you know, Springfield, Illinois to Miami, Florida. It's just not going to happen because you're never going to get the range, and you'll be 2 weeks delivering it. Stopping every 200 miles.
Yeah, and charging per 12 to 15 hours
Right.
after
Yeah,
each
it's
stop.
ridiculous.
Unless you
Gilligan,
do a
you've been
quick
awful quiet.
charging.
What are your thoughts, man? I mean, you thought you thinking anything positive about this whole battery thing, or do you think we need to stick with the diesel standard? What do you think?
I think I will go with the whole train situation with the way the trains run,
Mhm. Well,
because
that's currently
they
not.
do get a lot more power
Well, that's currently not in development.
out
I don't
of
know
what
of
they
any
get.
companies right now that are doing something like that, but if they were, would you be on board?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And as far as this whole emissions, California's the one that started it, but California actually dropped it too. They don't want anything to
Right.
do with the whole emissions.
Well, California don't want nothing to do with anything. In fact, it wasn't that long ago. It was in the rumor mill that they wanted to actually subjugate themselves and become their own country. Go, go.
Well,
Newsom can have him.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
whole nother show. I'm
Well,
not even gonna go there.
when
Anyway,
we're talking about this, well, with this whole emission deal, I mean, it's not helping, and it's not doing anything for us.
yeah,
It's just actually
Y-
killing our fuel economy, and it hurts our bottom line. because of
Yeah.
what it's going through.
See, I like this fella, Chris Helgren. I like how he's thinking.
Mhm.
Add a few carbon molecules to high pressure hydrogen gas, and you get petroleum you carry in a small tank.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a report out there. I'm going to look at that one because that's actually the first I'd heard of it, and I thought I knew what I needed to know about alternatives.
I've never heard of that one, but my worry with that would be, I mean, just think about what he just said. High pressure tank.
Kaboom.
The first accident a truck gets into and it blows up a minivan, that will no longer exist in our industry. That's the problem with that. Like,
It will go kaboom.
What did they do the first time they had to transport 10,000 gallons of propane? What did they do the first time they had to transport a high pressure vessel of any kind on a trailer? The same thing exists here. Where you pressurize anything,
Well-
there's always a possibility of leaks, but it's the safety systems you put behind it that define that.
You've also got to look at it already. I mean, we already have two pressurized type vehicles, which is pressurized natural gas and pressurized propane. So, I mean, it's already there. It's just he's talking about a different method.
Yeah, it just takes one really bad accident, one train accident, one anything like that, and all of a sudden the whole thing would be, because that's how they work. They react to everything. So.
Yeah, but see, it
and are you
let me
going to
ask you a
have to have
question.
a hazmat to drive it?
That's
No,
true.
you
You'd have
don't.
to have a hazmat.
No, you don't. You don't have to have a hazmat to drive a CNG truck.
Nope.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, maybe it's because
You
the
don't.
quantity is so low. It would depend on the
That's right.
quantity. So you wouldn't need
Only
a hazmat.
That's right.
hazmat is only
Mhm.
required for over 1,000 gallons of transport, not consumption. What was your question, John?
Hang on, I want to actually comment on this comment that just popped up. Electricity is available in every town, city, county, and country. In the industry, the car industry has adopted it. Yes, but the infrastructure to set that up was billions of dollars. A lot of it paid by Tesla, not even our government, and we're not anywhere close to setting up an infrastructure for semis to do that. So even if you had somewhere where you could charge your truck every 4 or 5 or every 2, 3, 4, or 5 hours, it wouldn't be enough.
Here's my take on exactly what you're talking about, John, and addressing this gentleman's comments.
Yes.
The way the Biden administration is traveling this whole electrification highway, here's what they want to do. They're currently setting out that as of 2032, okay, they are slowly stepping what they call doing a step down. All right. And this is for everybody, not just semis. This is for everybody across the board. As of 2032, they're going to start step down of ICE engines. Okay. The internal combustion engine will slowly be phased out over a period of 18 years. Every 4 to 5 years, I think the next step in the process will take place. And by 2040, they want a 37% reduction of the fuel-driven cars versus the electrification of the cars. Now, 2032 is not that far off. It's only 8 years. Okay? You mean to tell me in 8 years, you're going to put up all the infrastructure necessary, the charging stations, the power grid, the increased power capacity, which we don't even have enough for now, okay? And then you want to add not only cars, but semis too. Wait a minute. Think about how many cars there are on the freaking road. Most of them anyway, are operated by regular gasoline. Some diesel, some, but you get the point. Most of it are all petroleum-based products running the engines. You take 37% of them off the road and replace them with electric. First of all, you don't have enough charging stations. We don't have the capacity. If we had the charging stations and we suddenly decided to hit 37%, we'd suffer brownouts left, right, and sideways. But then from 2040 on, it goes from that near 40% all the way to zero. Left alone, we're never going to get anywhere. Now, the point you rose a minute ago, John, was, just talking about semis alone. I think we need at least a couple more decades to work out the what ifs what if this happens? We can do that. Or like WCF Invader says, let's develop a fail-safe whereby, okay, let's see if we can get a hybrid going, running on batteries, but just have that diesel generator kick in, charge them batteries, and run the truck, and everybody's happy. You got the best of both worlds in a situation like that, but it gives everyone time to make that transition. Everybody's so gung-ho to make. What do you think, Frank?
All right. This is kind of still on the topic of the electric stuff, but it's kind of funny too. Everybody knows Hollywood likes to tell on the government. They have for years. Don't know how, but they've done it. Because generally, if you watch something on a movie, a few years later, it happens. Well, years back when I was younger, and I'm sure you guys may have seen the movie, it was the original Super Mario Brothers. That was live action, real people. Okay, well, everything in there, of course, they were all supposed to be prehistoric dinosaur type people and stuff. So everything there was run off electricity. My question is, how was that possible? And I mean, even how is that going to help us now if we're going to be running off electricity? Are we going to have like phones, where we can set them on a docking station that's wireless and park our trucks on a wireless station and it just charges it while we're taking a 10-hour break without hooking up all these long, heavy cords to plug things in? Because, I mean, they don't think about that either, because you get all these cords and have to hook all this crap up. That's more work. Not to mention it's in the way. And I mean, you got to extend that thing every bit 70 foot just to make it up to the front of the truck where it's going to be charging at, because they're not going to have a charging port back there on the trailer. That's
they'll probably have a system. They'll probably have a system similar to where we used to have back in the day with the thing that attached to the windows. The idle air systems.
Or the ones that were in the ground. There was some that was built in the ground that had a phone and electric and all that down there. I remember those. And in fact, I actually seen one here not long ago. It surprised me. It was still in an old truck stop gas station parking lot. I was like, I know what those are. Because there was somebody asked me, and I said,
WCF Invader says, common misconception, majority of hybrid cars are not solely propelled by electric. That's right. A lot of people think that a hybrid is only electric. It's not. It's a combination of the gas and the electric, as majority of Chevy Bolt and Pacifica. Yes, great point. And that's frankly what needs to happen with these semis. Really, I think they're jumping the gun on that.
I think so too.
Was that where you were going to go with the?
No. Actually, I was going to bring up a comment. Bev says the truck stop would need to be set up like a drive-in theater. Well, a lot of guys that are driving now, the new guys, they don't remember this. But in the old days, way back, even before I was driving, and probably any of you were driving. Well, no, Frank probably remembers this. The trucks didn't have ACs in them. So when you went to a truck stop, they had a piping system around the truck stop that you put in your window to pipe in air conditioning so you could sleep in the cool air. Now,
called idle air.
Huh?
It was called idle air.
Idle air.
There you go.
That wasn't that wasn't the original, but the point being, yes.
It's so you didn't have to idle. Yeah. But that's my point, what I'm saying here. Like what she's saying has already been done in other areas. So yes, it is a possibility, but the infrastructure is just not there. And like you said, I mean, in California, they have brownouts now and blackouts now. Could you imagine if all of a sudden now half the gas vehicles are gas and diesel vehicles are gone and now they're using electric? Oh, it would be catastrophic.
It would be, indeed. Majority of, wait a minute, hold on a second. I'm behind comments here. Okay, that's the one I was at. Change to electric isn't going to happen with the floor. With the floor ace, I don't know what he's referring. I know the concept he's trying to say.
Flip of a switch.
Yeah, it will happen over time. The charging tech, battery tech, and power generation will improve. And that's basically, I think.
Agreed.
I think you can pretty much sense a theme here, especially with me. I think the way to go, and I think Jennifer Rumsey's only halfway there. I really do. And it's kind of the reason why I brought the story up. I think the way to go is to ease into the electrification. Whether you're talking about cars or trucks, I think that's the way to go. And she's got the right idea by Helms, and I think she's going about it kind of a backwards way. Oh, what the hell? She's got 1.675 million just sitting there floating around. She can do whatever she wants with now. So, whatever. I'm being funny. But, I mean, it's just money, so, but the idea being is if we go about it right, I think it makes a lot more sense than just running half-ass into the night with absolutely no lights on.
Well, I really feel that they're jumping the pew, as we'll call it, which everybody knows what a pew is. And I believe that they are, because they're trying to rush this, like you were saying, they're trying to hurry. You can't hurry technology. You have to take time with it because it's like a baby. You got to make sure it's working properly. You got to make sure all the setups are proper, and you got to make sure people understand it.
Yep.
So it's not. I mean, even by 2040, there's still going to be a lot of people like ourselves that are going to have to adapt to this thing, just like we did whenever computers became on the market for us. We were all like, wow, cool. And then we start playing with it. And we're like, oops, we screwed something up. When we got smartphones, everybody's like, oh, that's awesome. I can watch my family. And then they're sitting there and all of a sudden they brick their phone because they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, it's a baby. It needs to be worked with. It needs to be taken care of. Yes, they've been working on this for a little while, but not long enough.
Yeah.
Technology takes time.
I think Bev is onto something here. She says rebuilding roads with the charger and the roads. Okay, flip that comment on its head for just a second. Okay. I think what needs to happen and what would probably not really entirely hurt would be to build little generators that act as the same principle as the dynamic braking system in a train. Does anybody here know at all how that works?
Mm-hmm.
John, you may not because you didn't understand the whole concept of a generator diesel, but
I'm not.
No, he
I'm
just
not really
thought they worked off of coal and wood. Remember?
Well, nowadays it's all diesel. But let's put aside the power generation for just a minute, okay? Dynamic braking basically works with gear action, okay? And because the drive wheels on a train are driven by electric motors, a simple change of direction in polarity allows the engineer with their hand on the throttle to not only control the forward momentum, but also the decel on mild brake applications. Okay. If you're going down a train track and you do what's called dynamic braking, it basically acts the same way the Jake brakes act on our combustible engines now. Okay. It simply alters the timing on our cylinders and replaces a stroke with a compression. And that just basically gives that backward force on the drivetrain so that we're slowed. Dynamic braking works the same way, only it's polarity instead of compression. So now flip that on its head, and if instead of worried so much about dynamic braking on trains, apply that same technology to would-be electric motors on a semi, assuming you could find a way to cool them. And there you've got a ready-made generator right there. We currently have the generators for our batteries, the few that we have, in the engine, powered off diesel. But if you added a dynamic generator that would go along the road with you, that would seriously change everything. I'm assuming you have your hand up because you have something to add there, Gilligan.
Yes. I mean, why don't we? I mean, we already have the power for solar. I mean, that would be the only way I could see to save the infrastructure of our electric grid. Because there's no way that even by 40 that we're going to even have a chance of having enough electric in the United States without causing major blackouts.
Yeah. capacity has been up for discussion a number of times, and believe you me, I feel you on that argument. I mean,
Okay.
it is seriously up for doubt as to whether we're going to have the capacity to be able to fuel everybody that needs to run on the roads today. Midlife brings up a point.
So why
Trucks are
not
going
go
electric,
solar?
using CNG. I just left California. You and everybody else, Martin and Alice with Trucking Together, also left California not long ago. They're living up in Wisconsin now. A number of trucking companies that do business in California have closed up shop. A couple of note Fortune Trucking, and there's two other ones that were in the news last week. So California is definitely not the place to be. So I'm right there with you on that, midlife trucker.
Okay. I'd
You were
like
gonna
to
say
add
something,
to
Mike?
that last
Sure.
comment. Okay, the lady that brought up the factor of putting the charging stations in the highways. I actually watched a video here not long ago, I'd say within the last year, that was actually, there's a prototype of that going on in another country. They're going to give it a try. I'm not sure exactly how well that's going to go over, how well it's going to work. That would definitely be not something that would work properly out in California because of all the earthquakes that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get an earthquake, it's going to break all that. Whether
Yep.
the ground breaks big or not, it's still going to break it. Then they have to go back, repair it.
Yeah.
They've got to figure out where the break's at, all that kind of stuff. So it is a good idea, yes, but I don't see that
Yeah.
it works very well.
I don't think it would work at all, frankly, because I mean the same thoughts were always talked about with the safety systems being integrated in and just the sensors alone. I mean, the roadway shifts, heat, cold, everything happens. There's no way you can keep that stuff working. And WCF Invader brings up something I was kind of intimating to earlier. Problem with electric semis isn't the power delivery. He says you can easily charge any lithium battery up to 80% within 30 minutes, which is true. You can quickly do what's called a rapid charge, and you can give every amount of, oomph you want. But then you have the problem of consumption. When you got that fully charged battery, it's already fully charged, it's already warm, it's already, doing its thing. Then you're going to use it. So then what are you going to do? You're going to heat that battery up even more. So constant cycles of charge, consumption, charge, consumption. That battery is going to get hot. And they have to
It's going to
be
end up
able to
blowing.
integrate. Yeah, eventually that's what would happen. You have to have a way of cooling that technology and making sure that it doesn't become problematic. And winding up like one of my shorts. Go check out shorts on That's Trucking. My thoughts on electric trucks. It's comical. But I mean, honestly, if we're not careful, that's what's going to wind up happening. You're going to wind up putting this technology to use, putting it to work, and then you're going to see story after story, of trucks up in flames or whatever, news at 11, whatever. Really, I think we need to step
What?
back and take our time.
Why
Somebody was
can't
going
you
to say
use
something.
solar?
Sounded like Gilligan. What's wrong with solar is that you can only use it half the day.
Well,
Solar is
with
But
only
it
today's
good
charges
technology,
batteries.
I don't think you could do it with a semi, but I think it
No.
could be used as a hybrid part of a semi because think about it, with all the surface that we have on the upper side of us, especially in some states, oh my goodness, you could probably run, have a battery to charge during the day and run at night. Like I don't know why it's not it could be partially used. It could be part of a hybrid. Like have electric, have solar, have diesel. I don't see a problem with that at all. I'm sure there's a lot of expense to that though. Those solar panels are expensive.
Here's another direction to take this conversation. Thought just occurred to me. Unplanned, but I think totally necessary. Think about this, guys. Hold on a second. Real quick. One quick change. Think about this, guys. When you really consider everything at play, all right? Think about this. Trying to get this right here. Everybody's talking about these electric semis. Everybody's talking about all this technology. Everybody's talking about all this. WCF Invader, you're on target, my friend. You make a very good point. But I want to take that a step further. We run into time after time, problem after problem. And what does the government do? They constantly write waivers. We get waivers for hours of service. We get waivers for overweight. Natural disaster after natural disaster. We keep getting delivered the waivers and the exceptions to get the job done. I'm asking you, Pete Buttigieg. I'm asking you, Uncle Joe. Why not waiver this one? Think about it. The technology ain't there. You want to bankrupt the country and cripple our supply chain. Keep going the way you're going. If you want to make it work, waiver. Give us the opportunity to work the kinks out. What are you guys' thoughts? Think about it. Call us, let us know. 860-785-3547. Or if you're feeling froggy, put a comment down below or send an email to that'struckinnews@outlook.com. John, what are your thoughts on that? Waivers? I think we need to start thinking about that, honestly, because you know what? We're heading in that direction. Because what they're going to do is they're going to put us in this heap of trouble of trying to put us into this electric crap, and we're going to run into problems, and we ain't going to have the infrastructure ready. So what do you think? Waivers by force or by choice? What do you think?
It's going to have to be by force. I mean, there's no way they're going to have it ready. And there was a comment in here that kind of goes along the same lines. Where is it at now? He actually commented a couple times on. Basically, he was Midlife Trucker was saying that if we stop saying why we can't and start working on what we can do, that it would advance faster. And that's true. And I want to say, none of us are against, venturing out and trying this other stuff. We just got to get to the point where it's actually feasible for us to use and make money at, because really we all want to make money, but it takes time. Yeah. Nothing, you can't set a timer on technology. Oh, we have to have this by this date. That's not how technology works. When the need arises, we start working on it. The need has arisen, we're working on it. Now give it time. We'll develop it, and if the powers to be agree that it's time to change, then it'll change at that point. At this point, they're going to keep forcing it until everybody has to have a waiver until we get there. And it's all stupid. It's all stupid.
It is.
I'm all in favor of it, but we have to be there first. So.
Yes. One step at a time. That's been my thoughts on this entire process. One step at a time. Our electric grid has a capacity to be managed 90%. 95% of the hours are off-peak or super off-peak. The only issue is 3 months of the year from 2 to 7. And see, that's the other thing. Forgetting capacity, forgetting about peak usage too. I think waivers are the way to go, honestly. I really do. And just in case you're wondering, I know I'm seeing it, and the average guest isn't, but we're an hour over, we're 9 minutes over. I don't care. This is a passionate topic, so I'm not going to cut it until I'm ready to. But thermal management systems, I like this, are now incorporated in all electric vehicles. Look into the Gen 1 Nissan. They're liquid cooled. Didn't know that. WCF Invaders, the teacher today. God bless him.
I'm telling you, the guy is way smart.
Oh, well, and here's the thing. I'm only as smart as God has allowed me the capability. There's so much I don't know, which is the whole reason why I host this show. Because you know what? I don't know it all. But I do have a unique way of thinking. And I have a great sense of how to word things. So I'm hoping that together with your voice, we can actually do something. And it's shows just like this that give me that sense I've done something. And I just love the hell out of that.
Look at our comments right now. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you got WCF Invader that seems to be very knowledgeable about this stuff. You got Midlife Trucker. Midlife Truckers in there. And if you're reading his comments, I don't know if you are or not, but if you
I
are,
am. Yes.
the dude's breaking down things by math. He's a math guy. If you've ever watched his videos,
Yes.
he's all about the math
Yes.
of trucking. And
Yes.
like the last one, he says the Tesla Semi uses 1.7 kilowatts per mile. Even in California rates, that's 25 cents a mile. What's
Right.
diesel cost in California? Like no one is saying that it can't be more valuable. What we're saying is we have to have the technology to use it to make it valuable. Like something that you
We
can't use
need
is not valuable. That's all there is to it. So
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to the old standby, the way I started the whole discussion. We need time to work through the issues to make it make sense. I get that we want to make the air cleaner. I get that we want to make the roads safer. But let's not rush headlong into some unknown project claiming to solve the world's ills and then rush headlong into a rabbit hole we can't get back out of it at the end of the day. Frank, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? Especially my point about waivers. They waiver everything else. They give us, freedom and flexibility and hours of service every time a hurricane hits. Every time you get natural disasters in any one specific area of the country, they're all about giving us truck drivers the resources in both time and weight management and everything else. But where's the waivers in this discussion? I haven't heard near one. What do you think?
You want to know? Honestly, I really believe you on the factor that we do need to have it waived at this time. Take time with it, get it perfected before we jump the gun or pew pew. It's just,
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, you cannot rush technology no matter what you want to do. Every time they rush technology, bad things happen. Every
Exactly.
time.
Exactly. Gilligan, what's your thoughts on this? Waivers or no waivers?
Well, I will go with waivers definitely, and the reason why I say that is you look at what's going on now. Every 5 years, these cars are having to go back and get brand new batteries put them in every 5 to 7 years. That's costing as much as the original car the car is. So you think about if they did that with semis, how much is it going to cost for those batteries for those semis?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to
Yeah,
be
throw
worth
away
doing
technology.
Pretty much, yeah.
can I jump in?
Go ahead, John.
So, midlife trucker, he just said, you get a waiver when you're working towards something, not fighting against it. I don't know if he means it this way, but I want to respond to that because you got to understand, we're not fighting against this. We're just showing common sense to say it's not there yet. Like, none of us would be opposed to having an electric truck if the truck was
No.
capable of doing our jobs at our levels. But it's not right now. And I understand earlier you said that PepsiCo ran one for 600 plus miles and even had 1,000 plus mile day. Well, first of all, you can't have 1,000 plus mile day. That's hours of service violation. Second of all, I've never heard of that. The most I've ever heard is 250 miles, and that is a real thing. Not I've heard a lot of crap that wasn't true. That
There have
said
been a
more
lot
than
of
that.
sensationalized. There have been a lot of sensationalized stories about Tesla semis actually
Yeah.
lasting up to 500 miles. But I think if you put that Tesla semi under that same set of duress every single day, it'll eventually peter out. We'll develop a problem. So I don't know that the standard is there yet, but the one you mentioned, John, is one I have heard and I do agree with. And you know what, dude? I agree with his comment and I agree with his philosophy. Only thing I gotta argue though, it's not always necessary to get waivers to fight against anything. Okay? Waivers are there to help get to something and also move away. Just depends on the purpose. But the purpose we're talking about here on this show is making a sensible transition to alternative fuels and leaving the diesel standard in a sensible way. I don't think it's necessary that we just completely cut the cord. I use that expression, but I use it facetiously. We don't need to cut that cord. We are not ready. So I think when it comes down to it, waivers may be necessary. Companies that engage in, full-on research, such as the degree that Jennifer Rumsey has gotten involved in, I think is more than adequate. Given the time that we have ahead of us to really perfect this, I said let's do it right. And it don't matter what side of the argument you're on. At the end of the day, it's all about making a living. It's all about making a difference. And that's what we do here. That's what we do here at Truckin City. And that's what this industry is about. So lo and behold, one day at a time, we need to get with the program and do things that make sense. Make sensible choices and make a sensible transition from what currently works. We currently have a diesel standard that is right on. Let's not ruin a good thing. Let's make the right choices. Let's get the job done at the right time frame. Till next week, my friends, remember, it's the trucks that move America. But you guys are what make the difference. Till next week, God bless. Keep it real. Keep the faith. And keep her rolling.